Hello, everybody. Good evening for the last time, and welcome to Todd Klindt's SharePoint podcast number 278, recorded live on Monday, January 25th. I am your host, and now going to be not going to be a night owl anymore, but I'll still be Todd Klindt. Before we go any further, I need to give a shout out to all my friends at Rackspace. They are my employer, they're my friends, my confidants, and they're also the folks that kind of sponsor all this and make this all happen. They provided me with these flags that are behind me, the download bandwidth. All of you guys, when you download this sugary sweet podcast every week, you're doing it from Rackspace machines over Rackspace pipes, and I couldn't be happier to have Rackspace as my employer and just helping out. So you can find out about all the cool SharePoint things we do at Rackspace at sharepoint.rackspace.com. And because we are a full-featured, well-rounded hosting company, the home of fanatical support and many other catchphrases over the years, we also cover other Microsoft products, and you can find out about those at www.rackspace.com/Microsoft. And that's going to be things like Azure and Exchange and Skype for Business and Notepad as a service and just if you can think of it, we and Microsoft will let us sell it to you. SQL, we do that. We will absolutely do it. So go out to rackspace.com/Microsoft. And then finally, I too have a blog that is also hosted on Rackspace, and that's all out at toddklindt.com. So you can go to toddklindt.com/blog. There's Twitter, twitter.com/Todd Klindt. You can hit me up there. I'm on Instagram at Todd Klindt. You can email me, todd.klindt@rackspace.com. Many ways to travel through the internet tubes and get a hold of me. All right, for the fun part tonight, the production notes. Like I've said, and I've talked about this for a few weeks now, the show's officially moving. Tonight is the last 8:30 p.m. showing of the Todd Klindt podcast. Starting next week, starting February 1st, I'm moving the show to 4 p.m. Central. So that's 3 p.m. Eastern. That's 2 p.m. Pacific. There's another one in the middle there somewhere. I don't know what time that is. And if I do my math right, carry the 6, that's like 9 or 10 p.m. GMT or UTC or BBQ or whatever it is. But earlier time for those in Europe. And a little early in the day, we normally have an Australian contingent, though I see none of them bothered to show up today. But normally there's a Australian contingent. So I misspoke. I got the hooligans in the chat room. So here's how this breaks down. 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Mountain, 2 p.m. Pacific. So I'll have to go back and edit out. I'll put the little blooper thing over my mouth and all that. 5 p.m. Eastern. And made the change for a few reasons. Number one was since I moved over to Google Hangouts, I've had some guests on. And the evening hours are tougher for the guests, especially the guests on the East Coast. Had a couple of Europeans that I wanted to bring in. And for these guys, it's like sometime Thursday morning over there. They're so far in the future, I'm not sure. And so it's really tough. And so moving earlier in the afternoon is going to let me bring some more guests back on because that worked out really well. I've had some great guests on, Mark Manasseh and folks like that. And I want to get more of those. I've got some lined up, but they just don't like the hours. Jack in the chat room is asking, what about all those Alaskan listeners? Yes, the Alaskan listeners, also the Hawaiian listeners. They have also been marginalized. Let's not forget them. Hopefully they will all be able to forgive me. If they can't forgive me, if they would like to yell at me, if they send me a plane ticket to get me to Alaska or Hawaii, I would be happy to hear their grievances aired in person. So if you're in Hawaii or Alaska and my new time offends you because it's so early in the day, simple fix, plane ticket. I prefer Delta. I fly out of DSM. I will come to your door and you can yell at me in person. But so that was one of the reasons that I moved earlier in the day was for guests to make it easier for them. The other thing is just, I'm got a few little kids and things are getting busy. They have stuff at night and it was just kind of getting tough to schedule around some of that. So moving it to the afternoon worked out very well. So I appreciate that. Again, the chat room, we've got about 20 people or so in there tonight. It's pretty lively. They're kind of noisy. And it's good time. So hopefully the 4 p.m. thing will help out for folks that want to listen to it live. Went back and looked through my notes. So this podcast is going to be entering its 7th season. The first podcast was in March of 2009. I have the exact date. Don't go anywhere. First one was March 9th, I believe. March 9th or March 16th. I forget which one it was. That was the first one that I did in 2009. So coming up on 7 years ago. And then in April of that year, so about a month later, so I used to do it in my basement. And I used to do it about 20 feet that way. Those were dark days. I did the podcast about 6 feet from the cat box here in the house, and something about the sound of my voice made the cats have to go. So that was a great time for me. I'd get a few minutes in, and then that would happen. So then about a month later, I moved upstairs into my living room, and that worked out pretty well. But I was still doing it originally at 8:30 in the morning. And then my employer at the time said, about that 8:30 in the morning thing, we would like you to work at 8:30 in the morning. So then in July, so it looks like since I've been doing it in the evening since July 27th of 2009, I've been doing it at 8:30 p.m. So that is a hell of a run, 8.5 years or so. So, but we're moving it to 4 p.m. Central. And now, for my Hawaiian and Alaskan listeners, which again, if you were listening live, I would probably know by now because that's the whole thing. It's live. If you send me to Hawaii, my producer, Lori, and producer, webmaster, timer, all that kind of stuff, she thinks that she should be yelled at too, since she's the producer. And then we've got some other things. Joanne Klein wants to carry Lori's bags. This is going to be very expensive. It looks like a Nicholas wants to be a bodyguard for Lori. It's going to be a whole entourage. I'm just going to have a whole posse show up. But I would love it. So absolutely, if you're in Hawaii and offended by all this, by all means, send me over there. Give me a piece of your mind. So another great thing about moving out of the evenings is that right now, or very soon, my beloved Iowa State Cyclones will start whooping up on Kansas in men's basketball. And for, like last week, they beat number 1 Oklahoma. Fortunately, I got to catch the end of it. But those kind of things go on in the evening. I've been missing Monday Night Football for several years, all these kind of things. So now you guys don't have to choose between your favorite sporting events and me. You can have your sporting events back. So that's great. And it looks like in the chat room, everybody's going to show up. Tim is going to sign up for Uber and be my Uber driver. It's a road trip to Hawaii. We're all going. We're chartering a thing. So again, next week. Now, you would think since I'm going to be recording this thing 4.5 hours earlier, that the production would get done earlier and it would be out and published sooner. Likely not the case. We'll probably still enjoy the same late production times. So we do have that going for us. But moving next week, thanks to everybody in the chat room. You guys have been great. Hopefully most of you will be able to make it to the 4 o'clock thing. I would miss each and every one of you. Just smooches to all of you. One more production note. The birthday charity drive was a rousing success. I talked about that last week in episode 277. So for those of you who are showing up for the first time, for the last 8 or 9 years, however long I've been doing this thing, and every time I talk about it, apparently it gets longer. You folks out there, you listeners, have pitched into charities of your own, and around my birthday. So between Lori's birthday and my birthday, we always raise some funds. You guys email Lori. I try to get you guys to give some to charity. This year was crazy big. We were a little over $3,500. $3,525 were donated to charity in my name or because of me or whatever. So Lori put a card together, and it's a really great one. I'll hold that so you guys can see it and pause it and read it if you'd like, for those of you that have the video stream. For those of you most of my listeners are audio listeners. So it says, from all of us, a birthday really doesn't last very long. It's cake and candles, then poof, it's over. What's left behind is what matters most. All the genuine affection that made all of us want to celebrate you in the first place. Aww, you can't started to tear up a little bit. But anyway, so the card was nice. Lori does pick out good cards. You should all thank her. And then inside is everybody who donated and the charity that they donated to, and a bunch of charities. We got 2 of them, two columns of charities here that this $3,500 went to. And I'm going to call out each and every person that donated. You each get a shout out. If I mispronounce your name, I apologize, and I will be sufficiently horrified. So in no particular order. And what I mean by that is the order that Lori wrote them in the card. Liz Sundit, Naomi Moneypenny, Joanne Klein, Robert Hostetler, Daniel Glenn, Jim Ehrenberg, Lynn Dye, Steve Mushcat, Mike Zappacosta, Trevor Seward, the entire Jason Himmelstein family, Trevor Seward again, Larry and Mary Klindt, thanks Mom and Dad, Laura Rogers, Ross Chaplin, Dan Usher, Lori Gowan, Steve Versteeg, Corey Emmons, and I hear that Mark Christman donated money too, but I don't see his name on the card. Sorry, Mark. Better luck next time. But in all seriousness, thank you so much for all of this. And again, I've been talking about this for the last month. My wife and I will match your funds, and that means we're gonna take $3,525, and we've got 2 or 3 charities we're going to split it up amongst, and I'll talk about those next week once we get that all written up. But thank you very much. I appreciate that. Now, the downside of this is that next year you guys have to do even more. So next year, 3,500 or below is just complete and utter failure. We got to get greater than $3,500. But thank you guys very much. I appreciate that. It has been one of the I don't know. I literally get teary-eyed if I talk about it too much. So I do appreciate it. You guys are the best. And I look forward to my birthday next year so that we can help more people out. Thank you for that. Let's go to some topics. I like topics. So the big news this week, unless you've been, living under a rock or, you get your email from GroupWise or something, the big news in the last 148 hours, 668 hours in the last week was that Microsoft released SharePoint 2016 release candidate. That's right. And I've blogged about that. You can find out about that on my blog at toddklindt.com/SP2016RC. And we're just one step closer to that RTM nirvana that we've been thinking about for the last 2 or 3 years. About 2 days after SharePoint 2013 dropped, it seems like we were all looking forward to SharePoint vNext at that point. But we're getting closer. Microsoft has said for a while now that they plan on releasing this the first half of 2016, and I think we're on the road for that. It looks like it's going to happen. So that came out the 20th, which I thought was kind of in poor taste. I think they should have released it on the 21st, which was, of course, my birthday. That doesn't seem too much to ask. One thing that was a little odd, normally Microsoft releases these things when I'm traveling so that I can't blog them in a timely fashion, but this time they did it while I was at home. So this was a couple of cool things. So we have release candidate bits. We're getting closer. We're getting a whole lot closer. But this was a great opportunity for me. So about I don't know, whenever Dev Intersection was in Vegas last fall, I don't remember when that was, what month that was, but I was out there in the speaker room, minding my own business, hanging out with my friends. It's when I talked to Richard Campbell, and he and I were talking about me being on the Run As radio show, things like that. And again, just sitting there minding my own business, eating the free pastries, drinking the free coffee, living the good life. And Paul Thurrott and Brad Sams cornered me. And they told me, so Paul Thurrott, as you guys may or may not know, he's a podcaster. He does the Windows Weekly podcast on the Twit Network. He used to run Win Supersite, and he used to write for Penton back when they, anyway, a year or so ago, Paul left Penton, started his own site, Thurrott.com, and he also does some writing for Petri.com. And, just stay put right here. So at Ignite last year, when he moved over, that's the Thurrott.com logo, but then that's when he gave out these Petri mugs, which are kind of cool. Anyway, so he does a lot of work for the Windows writing on Petri, and they've got like Jeff Hicks doing the PowerShell writing. They didn't have anybody writing about SharePoint. And so Paul and Brad cornered me, took my donut away from me, and essentially sweet talked me into writing for Petri.com. And with the holidays and all that, we kind of got it all hashed out, a couple of weeks ago. And so the SharePoint 2016 release candidate was the first article that I've written for Petri. So that's awesome. If you don't already go to Petri.com, it's Petri.com. And it's a great resource for IT pros. It's all Microsoft based, and it's, PowerShell and Windows and all those great technologies that we all know and love. So I'm really excited to be a part of that. So I'm going to be writing for those guys on and off. I'm still going to be blogging. Nothing's going to change about that. Still going to be podcasting. Still going to be doing all those things. I'm just going to, the way I kind of position it to Brad. So Brad is a terrible negotiator. He's like, hey, you should come write for us. I'm like, all right, cool. What do you want? He's like, whatever you want. That's what we want. Like no, really, I'll make these unreasonable demands and you guys need to give me some guidance. He's like, no, really, whatever you want. That's fine. Do whatever you want. We don't care. So kind of the way that I plan on splitting this up is my blog will continue to be technical things. The things I write for Petri will be more journalistic things like SharePoint released the new version, that kind of stuff. And then once in a while, I'll write a technical article for those guys. And that's kind of what that is. But it's helping my friends out, because again, I'm buddies with Jeff and Paul and those guys, and just kind of an exposure thing. I've been blogging at toddklindt.com now, the only blogger at toddklindt.com for many years now. So I thought that would be a good group to hang out with. So if you don't already go to petri.com, please do that, and you'll be able to enjoy articles from me there, here and there. But the SharePoint 2016 candidate was my first one for there. So let's talk about that a little bit. The previous build that we had publicly was beta 2. We originally had the SharePoint 2016 IT preview, and then and that was in August. In November, they released beta 2, and then now here it is January with the release candidate. One unexpected cool thing about the release candidate is that it is just a patch to beta 2. Now, what's crazy about that is in the past with previous betas of SharePoint and every other, major product, until this last rev of Windows, every time you installed a beta, when the next beta came out, you had to wipe and reinstall. But now if you've got beta 2, the release candidate is just a patch for beta 2. So the download's really small, and you've already got your farm set up. You've already got things in there, not production stuff because this is beta software, but you just drop this patch on there, you install it. We have to run it comes with a new pre-installation, prerequisite installer. So you got to run that, and then you run the patch, you run the config wizard, and your beta 2 farm is magically upgraded to the release candidate. Now, that's cool for a couple of reasons. One of the reasons is because you don't have to lose all your stuff. Because for those of us who are in here, we're doing this, we're setting up these farms, we're playing with mineral, we're doing all these things. We don't have to burn that down and install a new farm with a release candidate. Now we don't have to. Just put that patch on all the machines, we're good to go. That's pretty cool. The other thing is it shows us where patching for SharePoint's headed, and it's headed in a good place. We've been hearing from Bill Baer when he was on the show talking about how patching is going to get better, things like the no downtime patching in SharePoint 2016. We've heard all that before, though. That's, the patching, there's been talk of patching getting better in the past, and we haven't really seen anything. But now we're actually being able to patch through versions of the beta. I think they're serious about this patching thing. I think it's really going to be a lot better in the next version of SharePoint. So I've got that. So if you want to get the release candidate bits, you need to download beta 2 and install beta 2, and then run the prerequisite installer for the release candidate and install the release candidate upgrade. Now, there are a couple of shortcuts. I haven't fleshed them all out yet, but I will blog them soon. And I think Brian LaLancette is in the chat room. He's the guy, he was the godfather of the auto SP installer. And so I know that he's well on top of this. And actually, I guess I can probably talk about, since Brian's here. Brian and I were chatting today, and so it's important to note, Brian just mentioned this in the chat room, Auto SP Installer already supports SharePoint 2016. If you're not using Auto SP Installer, try it out. I think it's just autospinstaller.com, and it's a great framework for installing entire farms, SharePoint 2010, 2013, or 2016. But Brian and I were chatting today about some other things, and he mentioned that if you have not installed beta 2 and you want the release candidate, there's a really good chance that if you install beta 2 and unzip it the way we've unpacked them in the past, find that updates folder, drop the release candidate in that updates folder, and then run the release candidate prerequisite installer, probably just installs your farm at the release candidate. So I haven't had a chance yet today to test that, but I trust Brian with my life. No, I don't trust Brian with my life. I trust Brian with my SharePoint farms and, like a plate of hamburgers or something. But I believe that this works. So that will get you to the release candidate in one step. So Brian's going to blog that. I will probably blog that. I just want the record to show that this was Brian's idea. I will probably blog it and cover it somewhere, but this was all Brian's idea. But the patching for SharePoint has gotten better, and I'm very excited about that. So I would love to hear any stories you have about the release candidate, what's worked, what hasn't worked. Let me know. I'll be running it through its paces. I'll be upgrading my farms hopefully tomorrow. Hopefully I'll be able to do that. Daniel Glenn says, let's everybody blog that. I think it's a great idea. I think we should all blog how to install RC. Now, you're probably asking yourself, this is a lot of work, Todd. I have to take 2 downloads and install one and then download the thing and install the other. Man, how am I going to keep track of all of these links? This is horrible. Don't you worry your pretty little face. We all knew this day was coming. We all looked forward to it. It was inevitable. It was like the sun rising in the east and setting in the west. It was like water being wet. We all knew this was going to happen, but today was the big day. Now, for all of your SharePoint 2016 downloading needs, I have created my SharePoint 2016 builds page. And I could have done a drum roll, but that's really obnoxious, the microphone and everything here. But you can go now to toddklindt.com/SP2016 builds, and it will take you to the SharePoint 2016 patch page. Now, I also blog that, continuing in my tradition of putting out a blog post that points to something else that I've written, much like the SharePoint 2016 release candidate. I blogged the SharePoint 2016 build list was out there. I blogged that today, but the build list is actually someplace else. So a little background, my SharePoint 2010 builds list and SharePoint 2013 builds list were just blog posts. And then every time a new patch would come out, I would go in and edit that blog post. Kind of clumsy, kind of cumbersome, not a great way to publish that information. So for SharePoint 2016, I've created a wiki page. And then on that wiki page, I've got a web part that consumes an XML file. And that's how I'm going to update this. So I've got an XML file in the background. I use PowerShell to update the XML file, and then that web part just automatically gets it. So it's a lot more robust. Plus, it gives the XML file can be used by people like Brian for the AutoSP installer, that kind of stuff. But that page is out there now. It's going to have all the same information, and I'm also going to do a little better job with keeping track of which regressions apply to which patches. But that is all out there. And then, of course, I've created the Twitter account, and that is something that I have forgotten. Let me go to my blog for all of you who've not been following. So, yes, the Twitter account is at SP2016builds, and that's the same thing. I'm only going to blog SharePoint 2016 build information there. I'm not going to be talking about my dog or anything like that. So that is out there. As always, though, if you have ideas about how I could improve that list, information I could say, I could put there, things like that, let me know. I've got some other information. That XML file has fields in it that the table does not yet, and I need to find the best way to expose that. But let me know what I can do to help, but that's where you can get your links to download the Beta 2 and release candidate bits. All right, we're getting close to the end here. Tangentially SharePoint information. This is something, so I've been spending a lot of time the last 6-8 months working with Azure Active Directory, Azure AD. And because of that, I've been reading the Azure AD Mailbag on the Azure blog. And that's at blog.technet.com/b/AD. And one of the things that Azure AD has, if you've got Azure AD Premium, is the Azure AD App Proxy. This is software that you run inside your premises. You run this process. You configure it all in Azure AD. You've got your accounts in Azure AD, and you've got them set up for 2-factor auth or whatever. You've got all your permissions and all that set up. And then if you've got something internal, in this case, we'll say SharePoint, that you want to publish externally, but you don't have the network gear to do it, or you don't have the security policies or whatever, you can publish internal applications securely to the internet with Azure AD Proxy. Your users would go to a page, they would log in with their Azure AD login, and they would be able to access those applications through the firewall, through their Azure AD application. So the Azure AD Mailbag just published an article about how to set that up. It is crazy cool software. You can do it with SharePoint, but you could do it with anything. You could publish OA that way, Outlook Anywhere, any kind of web application, whatever you can do with that. If you're not already in Azure Active Directory, you should be. That's the thing that kind of powers the identity behind Office 365, and that's something that's going. Azure AD Premium, which is required for the accounts using this, gets a little spendy, but if you need that functionality, check that out. So that'll be in the show notes, the Azure AD App Proxy, one of the many cool things you can do with Azure Active Directory. Finally, a topic that I promised that I would talk about last week, but then ran out of time, and almost going to run out of time this week. But I got a new router here at the stately Klindt Manor. And there was a couple of reasons for that. Number one, my old router was one that I had bought at Best Buy about 4 years ago, and probably spent all of about $40 on it. And as technology had progressed, it had not. And I got to the spot where I had to reboot it once in a while, and I was pretty sure that it was slower than my cable modem. And then a month or two ago, my cable modem provider sent out new cable modems. They said, hey, we're giving everybody upgrades. You're getting a speed upgrade. You need to do this. And so I'm like, well, we're getting close. The other thing is I have two internet connections here at my house. Since I work from home and I do everything in the cloud, internet connection is kind of important. So I have a cable modem, which is my primary connection, and then I have DSL. DSL is super slow compared to my cable modem. And what would happen if my cable modem went out, and it would 2 or 3 times a year, it's like anything else that happens, I would have to go in and change the default gateway on all of my machines in DHCP, reboot them, all that. I mean, it was okay, it worked, but there had to be a better way. So I knew when I put my new cable modem in, my old router wasn't going to be able to handle it. And I wanted to find something that would handle both of my WAN connections. So went out to Facebook and Twitter and all those places that people chat about these things, and I asked about it. And a couple of people, Trevor Seward, who's in the chat room right now, was one of them, recommended the Edgerouter Lite from Ubiquiti Networks. So it's this little guy right here. And I'd looked at dual WAN routers in the past. They were always super expensive, $200-$300 for this functionality. One of the things that I liked about this is it was $90 on Amazon. So that meant that I could try it, and if it stunk and it didn't do what I wanted, I could yell at Trevor. Feeling his superiority is worth the $90 to me, but I would only be out $90. It wouldn't be too bad. The other thing I liked about it is it's small. I like small. I'm trying to downsize all this. Ever since I started working at Rackspace, I've been trying to have more and more, trying to get rid of more equipment in my basement. And I'm getting down to, I've only got like 2 or 3 machines, but I want smaller equipment. This thing is tiny. Obviously, it's this is the box, but it does the dual WAN thing. So I tried it out, and I hooked up my new router, or my new cable modem first, and I did a speed test on that, and I got 92 megabits down, which is not bad. Nobody can complain about 92 megabits down. 92 megabits down, 10 megabits up, something like that. Went in, and I've had a request in the chat room to hold the box over my face for the remainder of the podcast. I don't have to have my mom talk to you. So then all I did was just swap this router out. So I took the old router out, put this one in. It's got wizards. I just walked it through. And at that point, I only had one WAN connection hooked up to it. I said, do this one, make it happen. Just by virtue of replacing the router, I went from 92 megabits down to 167 megabits down. My router was absolutely the weak link in that chain. So been playing with that. I would show you more, but I'm actually using it right now. So I can't show it to you because it's in there and this podcast is going through it. But it's got things like you can see here, some of the pictures. It's got traffic graphs, things like that. It does handle 2 WAN connections. My DSL WAN connection is not being very cooperative right now, so I haven't been able to get that one working. But that's the DSL thing. It's not the Edgerouter Lite's problem. But So after I started playing with this thing, it's got, and I guess the thing to bring up, it's got 3 gigabit connections. So plenty of speed there. After I started playing with this, it became very clear that this was a little Linux box. Nobody's surprised there. But it is running a firewall under the hood called Viata, which is something that I've worked with before. Rackspace, if we don't anymore, we used to have public cloud router appliances you could get that were Viata appliances that I'd worked with. So it's got a great web interface that lets you do all the great things, but then you can also drop into the SSH shell and do things from the command line if you want to. And it's a good little router. I've really enjoyed it. Definitely worth the $90 that I've got invested in it. So in these days of faster and faster network connections, this is a good router for $90. Now, I've talked to some other folks. Liam Cleary, another SharePoint friend of mine, has one of these. He's not using 2 WAN connections, but he's got one of these set up as a VLAN for his wireless, which is kind of nice because then he can partition off his wireless things. So big fan of the Edgerouter Lite. I've got a couple things yet to figure out on it, but if you're looking for a dual WAN router, it's the way to go. I'm a big fan. All right, shameless self-promotion. We'll make this one quick. This is very similar to last week's. We got SP TechCon here in a month. Oh my goodness, a month, and I'll be down in Austin, Texas. Actually, a month from now, I'll be done with SP TechCon. But that, sptechcon.com, go down there, doing a couple sessions. I think I'm doing an upgrade session. I don't remember. I'm doing all my stuff Monday and Tuesday morning because I'm going down to Rackspace in San Antonio Tuesday. So if you go to SP TechCon, for goodness sakes, come find me, but find me early because I'm going to leave and you're going to miss me. And I would like to talk to you. I'd like to, shake your hand, meet you, talk to you a little bit about SharePoint. It'd be a good time. So come find me, sptechcon.com in Austin, Texas. And then in April, the next speaking event that I have planned is Dev Intersection. Now, this is one that I blogged here a couple of weeks ago. If you go to Dev Intersection, if you register, and the registration link is in my blog post, put my name in there, you get $50, I get $50. And what I really want is bragging rights. I really want more people to sign up under my name than sign up under Jason Himmelstein's name. That's really all I want. Whatever Jason has +1, that's all I need. Just N plus 1, that's it. But you can go to devintersection.com and find out about that. So, and I'm going to be doing some stuff there, and probably Azure AD stuff, upgrade stuff. I forget what I'm doing there, but that's a great one. And the great thing about Dev Intersection is that it's not just SharePoint. So you can go to some SharePoint classes, you can go to some SQL classes, you can go to some Windows classes, all kinds of great stuff. So I will be there, and again, I think I have plans for like that Wednesday night. The event is April 16th through the 22nd. The sessions, there's a bunch of day-long sessions at the beginning and the end. I think the 75-minute sessions are the 19th, 20th, and 21st. And I have plans the night of the 20th back home. So I think that's another one like SP Tech. I'm going to be there the first day and then have to fly out. So if you're going to be at Dev Intersection, sign up, use my name, and then come find me on the first day. Well, everybody, chat room, don't go anywhere. I'm going to stick around for a few minutes. Everybody else, thanks. I will look forward. Hopefully, a few of you will be able to jump in next week at 4 o'clock. You can listen to this live. Go to toddklindt.com/netcast to watch it live. I've got a web part in there. Or you can sign up for my YouTube channel at youtube.com/toddklindt.netcast. Thank you, everybody, and I will see you next week in the afternoon. Goodbye.